Hi, everyone. Welcome, and thanks for listening to Setting the Pace, a Lindner College of Business series of podcasts focusing on the PACE platform and how you can excel in the areas of professionalism, academics, character, and engagement. I'm Rick Sweeney, a professor of marketing in the Lindner College of Business at the University of Cincinnati, and I have the best job in the world because I get to be involved every day with some awesome students and student organizations. We've got a great podcast for you today. Joining me today are three Lindner College of Business PACE setters, a distinction awarded to those students who excel in the areas of professionalism, academics, character, and engagement. First, let's welcome Sahana Satyanarayanan.
Hey everyone, my name is Sahana Satyanarayanan. I'm a fourth year majoring in operations management and minoring in information systems.
Next, we have Jimmy Fox.
Yeah, hey guys, Jimmy here. I'm a third year OM major with a minor in international business.
And finally, we have Lauren Bradstreet.
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Bradstreet and I'm a fourth year senior majoring in operations management and marketing.
Lauren, Sahana, and Jimmy, it's great having you here. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Today we're talking about the area of character as it relates to the PACE platform, and this is an area where all three of you truly excel. Within the PACE platform, we define character as having the strength and conviction to lead and work with teams made up of people with diverse backgrounds and differing viewpoints. For many of our students in Lindner, these traits are built through collaborative projects, co-ops, involvement in student organizations, and study abroad experiences. There's so much to talk about in the area of character, so let's first talk about those opportunities we have to collaborate with our fellow Bearcats. All three of you have served as PACE leaders for our freshman first year experience, which takes our students through collaborative projects starting at the beginning of their studies in Lindner College of Business. What's it like to lead 25 or 30 freshmen through their first year experience?
So I think the best part, for me at least, about being a PACE leader and, leading 25 freshmen was getting to see each one of their thought processes. Each person had their own, method of solving problems, approaching a problem, and the coolest part for me was every time I PACE led, I had somebody from like multiple parts of the world, and how that came together. It was just amazing to see them work through each of their problems.
Yeah, I've been a PACE leader for the past 3 years for both Essentials of Business and Business Foundations, and I've really loved both of them. Being a PACE leader has been so rewarding, just being able to see their growth that the students have from their official one-on-one meeting to where they are now. It's just so neat to see it all firsthand. A lot of our students, too, come in business undecided, so these projects are really giving them just that real-world experience that they can learn in the classroom and then apply it to their projects. And a lot of them, too, because of these projects, students are going into their second year a lot more confident what they want to major in. For me specifically, though, my favorite project was definitely Project Innovation. This project allows students to work with their learning communities and just brainstorm and collaborate on trying to create a product that doesn't exist on the market. So my first year, my learning community actually won the IQE pitch competition, and I really thought I learned so much from that. I had a deep love and passion for innovation, and I just applied to be a PACE leader because I really wanted to give back to this program. But I definitely say that the first year experience is one of the main reasons that just makes Lindner so special, and so does the implementation of the PACE Leader program. I always try to remind my students that PACE leaders can be resources to them throughout their entire time at UC and beyond college, whether that be helping them with scheduling classes or just trying to figure out which organizations to join on campus, or honestly, if they just need any professional advice. I know that we all love giving back in any way we can.
Yeah, so I mean, Sahan and Lauren, you guys did a great job kind of explaining what it's like to be a PACE leader. I think it's not an experience that I've ever done anything similar to it. Going into internships and whatnot, having some kind of leadership experience really speaks a lot, especially when managers can kind of call on you to, lead a meeting or anything, or, kind of explain something to somebody who's never done it before. freshmen come in here and come to UC, and it's kind of a overwhelming experience. And I take it with great honor and pride that I'm kind of their first face as a student, as to kind of like what UC can make of a student. And I think it's really inspiring to some of them to see the PACE leaders kind of see, okay, they did the same class I did, and look where they're at now. One of my favorite parts about being a PACE leader is definitely working with like all the different kinds of students that you run across. I mean, you run into like people, that you never think would excel, or, people who just like, come out of their shells during the class and whatnot. And it's so incredible to see like the students really grow and change throughout the 2 semesters that you work with them. And, even before I sat down, I met one of my previous students outside in the hall, and just getting to catch up with him afterwards. And, he's talking to me about his internships and whatnot. And just like, I'm excited for him because I knew what kind of student he was. I knew kind of, where he wanted to go, and seeing him start to accomplish those mini goals going up to that, it's just exciting to see as someone who formally kind of mentored them. So definitely one of my favorite aspects of it is kind of seeing them grow throughout their time here at Linder, and kind of seeing them after the fact, almost kind of seeing how they've grown, how they took the information that they learned, the hardships that they learned freshman year and whatnot, and really turn those into success factors, turn them into their strong points, not frowning on, all the hard points of being a freshman in college. So
Absolutely. And so, you think about how the leadership roles that you all get to play really help to develop the character, and as you were saying, in such diverse groups of students who all come together on day one. It's such an incredible experience. And Lauren, you were also one of our student orientation leaders. I love the Souls and what they do with our new freshmen to get them acclimated to the new environment here at UC. Tell us a little more.
Yes, for sure. Being a student orientation leader was definitely one of my favorite memories in college, by far. I had over 200 engineering and applied science students throughout the summer, which was definitely difficult at first and really pushed me outside of my comfort zone. But I feel like looking back, I really grew from that experience. But as a Soul, some of your responsibilities are just leading small group sessions, giving tours around campus throughout the summer, and you're just kind of essentially just the go-to person throughout the summer with any questions that the students have before classes start. But what I really loved about being a Soul was just all the connections I made with professors, faculty, and the other student orientation leaders throughout the summer. It's definitely so neat to have friends from all different backgrounds and majors around campus, and we also keep in touch with each other, which is awesome. Looking back, though, I feel like this was the one organization that truly got me super involved on campus and what made me super passionate about being a Bearcat. So I definitely recommend it if any of you all are looking to have a summer job or just getting involved on campus.
Yeah, the Souls just play such a vital role in the development of our students.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think it's a really cool student organization. And speaking of organizations, one way of building character is through those student organizations. Hey, Jimmy, let's start with you. You're a member of one of our many fraternities and sororities on campus. Tell us about the leadership skills you've gained through that.
yeah, so I'm a member of Phi Kappa Tau. It's a pretty medium-sized social fraternity on campus. I've been the pledge class. I was the pledge class president when I rushed. I'm head of standards board now, but I was a standards board representative. And just as of a few weeks ago, I'm now the vice president of the fraternity. And thank you. Really, so far, I've only really been in that position for about like 3-4 weeks, maybe a month. And I feel like I've just like, it takes a lot of responsibility to lead a group of growing, young men through to kind of curate them into good professional people. And that's one of the great honors I take in, being VP is I feel like I have that say, and not just that I have that say, but I have kind of the power and leadership skills to lead them in the right way. It's taught me a lot about patience and a lot about kind of drawing that line between being a friend to being a leader, being someone they can look up to. Definitely over my internships, especially last summer, I learned what it takes to lead a good team. And one of the key takeaways that my manager always told me was confidence is key. The people you're leading, they're looking for you to the answers, or looking for you for the answers. And if you're not sure of the answers yourself, being confident is the best that you can be. And as someone who and didn't hold an exec board position before this, just kind of stepping into that role, I understood that I just need to have confidence in what I do, how I lead, things we decide to pursue and whatnot, and the rest will follow. So far, I've reached out to over 200 alumni. I've got about an 80-person long list of speakers that we're going to have come through. So already making, big steps as far as the position. As far as within the fraternity, I've already seen a change. I've seen a change, just in how brothers treat each other, kind of how the fraternity walks and talks on campus. Just something cool to see. One of the biggest reasons I'm in, OM as a major is just seeing the change, seeing, adapting to change. I want to be a project manager. That just requires change and adapting to change new situations. And I love being the change that I want to see, adapting with the new situations that, confront me. So that's definitely one of the biggest pros of stepping into such a large leadership role. As far as, being on the standards board is basically, they uphold the ethics and how the fraternity holds itself socially within. We deal with inner problems and whatnot. Being a part of that really taught me how to be strong mentally and how to not kind of input bias into the decisions that I decide to make. It's a great responsibility that really I take for granted. But being on that definitely has taught me how to be a leader without, being forceful or anything. It's all about compromise. It's all about understanding rather, listening to understand rather than listening to persuade, which I think is a big key in being successful as a leader. Trying to understand, who you're leading, so you can manage them the best or lead them the best way, I think is definitely a key part of my leadership style. And I think it's something that I've learned just through experience, through internships, and especially through this position so far.
That's really, really cool. You think about all of the character building traits that occur when you can go through a leadership experience and when you can, help others adapt to change just as you have to adapt to change yourself. And Lauren, you're in a sorority, right?
Yeah, so I have only had one leadership position on my leadership team, but what I've come to realize throughout these past 4 years is that you really don't have to have a leadership position to make an impact in your chapter. And that's what I always try to remind the younger members, is that you don't have to be on a committee or be on exec to just give back. I think you can always find small ways to give back to your chapter in any way. But last year I served as the Vice President of Community Relations for Pi Phi. And when I first initially applied for this role, I really wanted to find something in my chapter that would allow me to utilize just the things I've learned in OM and marketing courses throughout a position, just so I could grow my professional skills. But within this role, I oversaw both the philanthropy and social media chairs, which taught me a lot about leading a team, managing a budget, and just kind of what goes into planning and executing events. But what I truly want to emphasize too is the fact that with joining campus organizations, try to take the initiative and apply for leadership positions as you do feel more comfortable. From my experience, being in a leadership role has been so rewarding and has taught me so many things that I might not necessarily learn from the classroom setting. And another thing I've learned too is that the experiences I've gained through being on a leadership team are just some of the key questions that I feel like employers ask me so much during interviews. So I guess my advice is to not only participate in these campus organizations, but try to be a leader when you do feel comfortable and ready. It's just a fantastic way to grow your professional skills and just who you are as a person.
No, that's great advice there.
Yeah, and I'd love to add to something that Lauren said that was incredible, and something I tell all my LC students is that you don't have to be in a power position or an exec board to have a voice.
Yeah.
Just speaking up in meetings, having that initiative, you can do a lot as a general member of any organization on campus. You can make change greater than you think you're making. I think that is one of the biggest things for students is they don't want to step up because they don't know what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of a risk taking a leadership role because you're not really sure what that entails. You don't know what goes on behind the scenes that you're not really know that you're signing up for. So I think that is a great point to make, that just because you want to be a leader and you see yourself as a leader does not mean that you have to be in those positions of, supreme leadership or, being on the exec board. You don't have to be in those titles to, be a leader within your organization. You can be a leader on your own level, lead the team in a way that you still make an impact. You just don't have that title. You know what I'm saying? So it's
absolutely. Yeah, you don't have to be, the CEO in order to
Right.
make an impact
Exactly.
on an organization. And speaking of being involved in organizations, Sahana, you've been involved in quite a number of organizations over the past couple of years. Tell us about a couple of those. One is the Lindner Student Association.
Yes, and I will start with that. So when I got into the Lindner Student Association, I was actually looking at, okay, how do I make lives for students within Lindner better? And so I had a conversation with Dean Lewis, who actually recommended me for that position. I just went to her with some of the ideas, and that sort of goes back to what Jimmy was saying with, just take some initiative, any initiative, and so as senator, what my current aim is to get as many voices as possible. It certainly was stepping out of my comfort zone because it does seem a little daunting to represent an entire college at an undergraduate level in student government. And I do have a co-senator with me, but again, it's two people and then an entire college full of students. And so despite it being daunting, I really do enjoy the position because, again, I've always been somebody that focused on how am I going to make people's lives better, easier, what can I do to get them to step out of their comfort zones, and, so representing them has been a big focus. And I don't know how many people know this, but senators, we do have office hours every week. So students, if you have voices and, you want us to hear them, just reach out, I guess. And so, and what I do for LSA does sort of tie into what I do for the Warren Bennis Leadership Institute as well. I am an ambassador for them, and they're a fairly new initiative. And so they look at how do we create leaders all across UC. And so my representation within Lindner and student government also plays into, okay, what are the different colleges within UC, and then how are we going to curate leadership methods and leadership education for each one of those colleges. And so I recently met with the dean of CCM, who it was a joy talking to him, and I had also met with Dean Lewis again. Also such a treat talking to her. She's such an inspiration. So yes, how are we gonna create leaders? How are we going to listen to people's voices? How am I going to make people's lives better? And so how do we make leadership more aware? That is something we talk about. Leadership in general is something we talk about a lot within Lindner. And there's just so many opportunities here. So how do we make all those opportunities known to students? How do we motivate them to take up some of those leadership opportunities? That's what we're focusing on right now, and that's sort of what's in my head a lot these days.
Oh, absolutely. We have so many opportunities for people to get involved in organizations, for people to collaborate in projects such as their first year experience, and for people, another big aspect of what makes Lindner great is all of our study abroad opportunities. And so we do have a variety of different programs. And I know, Jimmy, let's start with you. You've been to Mexico and India on experiences, right?
Yes, and this upcoming December, in about a week, I'm going to Australia, Sydney, Australia.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to start with UC's study abroad options. I mean, they might be the most pivotal, most, life-changing experiences I've had so far here at Lindner. I know my 10-day trip in Mexico was, character changing. Just being out of the country for the first time, seeing a different culture up close and personal, experiencing that, getting involved in the local customs. I came back a completely different person. I feel like I really came out of my shell. I feel like I was just a new person. And that's something I can never repay to UC, or something I can really begin to explain until you really experience it for yourself, is kind of that defining moment. As far as, India goes, I mean, that program was incredible. I mean, seeing India up close and personal, Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, Agra, the Taj Mahal, the bustling markets, the night markets, the bargaining, the food. I mean, the people there are so incredibly nice. I was treated, as you would expect. I mean, it was just incredible. They're just incredible people over there. And I had the time of my life, overseas in India. That week was full of stories. I could go on and on about stories that I have from India. But the beauty of that country is just something that you can't speak to unless you've been to it. As someone who kind of likes that urban environment, it was like really fun to be like in the life, in Mumbai, especially in Delhi. Really seeing the hustle and bustle of the city was really just like awe-inspiring, I guess. As far as, cultural competence goes, which is something that I, really think is important for every student to have, especially if you're a PACE leader who leads a diverse group of people, as Sahana said, from all over the world, super important to have. And I think that's been built up in me so much over just these 2 study abroads alone. And that's only 2 countries, out of, the hundreds of countries on the world. You can't even begin to imagine how incredibly well-rounded your character may come from traveling the world. I feel like I'm much more understanding. I feel like I'm much more open-eyed. I feel like I really have a better perspective on the globe and kind of what it's like in different countries. Going to these countries, it really kind of breaks you down when you first get there. You're tired, the jet lag, you don't know what to expect. But over the 10 days, I mean, I can't even imagine what being in a different country for a semester is like. You must just feel incredible. But I mean, over 10 days, you just like, by the end of it, you have this energy. You just have like this different energy about yourself. And you're just like, you feel confident. You feel like you know more. You just feel better about yourself, knowing that you've seen a different part of the country and that you can understand that little bit more about what somebody's going through on the other side of the planet.
And think about all you've learned just over a 10-day period.
Exactly.
And you mentioned, being out there for an entire semester. Lauren, you spent an entire semester in Verona, Italy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I love that city.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Just like Jimmy said, it was probably one of the most incredible experiences I've had in my entire life. I spent 4 months there studying abroad through the USAC program, which is one of UC Study Abroad partners. But during my time in Verona, there was about 30 of us from all over the U.S. who all took classes together, so that was super fun. I took a few business courses, an Italian language course, Roman art, and probably my favorite was the Italian cuisine course. We learned how to make pasta from scratch and just a bunch of different Italian dishes, which was amazing. But what was really neat about taking classes there was just being able to learn from the Italian professors. Every day was just so eye-opening, and just like hearing about their way of life there and the culture there, experiencing it firsthand too was incredible. When I wasn't in classes though, I was traveling literally everywhere. I traveled to 11 countries when I was there, and was exhausted by the end, and ready to come home. But I learned so much about navigating in new cities and countries, and just making decisions on my own and figuring out how to manage both my academic and personal life, just without that familiarity of just like being here and not being able to go talk to my parents every day, and do that time change was hard at first, but it really pushes you outside of your comfort zone and you grow so much when you're there. Looking forward though, I would definitely say that I feel so much more confident as I move into post-grad life, just because of the experiences I had abroad. I honestly, like Jimmy said, I couldn't recommend going abroad more. I always tell people it doesn't even have to be a semester-long program. It can be one of the faculty-led trips or just a vacation with your family or friends. I promise you will learn so much from it, and you really won't regret it.
I will say I haven't been on like a study abroad program. However, I am originally from India, and I have been to Italy before. And I cannot agree more. The food, oh my gosh,
gosh,
is the
yes.
best part. However, Jimmy, I do have a question for you. You said you were in Mumbai. How was the traffic?
Yeah. Listen, driving in Clifton isn't much different, I don't think. No,
Oh,
but
yeah.
Mumbai was. I mean, the traffic is something to talk about. You know, even a little off topic in the new Spider-Man movie,
Oh,
they
yeah.
have
Back
Mumbai,
in- yep.
and literally the Spider-Man in the Spider-Verse just talks about this is traffic, this is
Traffic,
more
yep.
traffic, this is where our traffic is, and I mean it was fun. We took a lot of tuk-tuks and taxis and whatnot around Mumbai, and seeing them drive with like confidence when they're like centimeters apart is you're just like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh my gosh,
Very
but
different from here, isn't
very
it?
different.
Yep.
It was an experience for sure. Yeah, that's about all I have to add about the traffic. Besides, it did delay us some time going to an island that we needed to get to on time, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just realize those little experiences and those little moments that really just help make you a different person outside the classroom. It really is wonderful, and
Yeah.
such wonderful experiences you all have been having. I'm so impressed by all the success you've had, here at Linder. And so in terms of advice, Lauren, you already started with some advice with
Yeah.
students about getting involved, but what other advice do you all have for our current students or even those prospective students who might be listening in today?
I think one of the biggest things I will tell any student, incoming or otherwise, is within Linder especially, you will find an organization that is catered to you, regardless of whether you are undecided or not. You will always find an organization that would either have a speaker or there's like so many events going on. Certainly go and interact with those speakers, especially because you never know whose connection is going to come into use later. You could go on to become a student leader yourself, and you could get them back to be a guest speaker for your event in the future. So certainly start networking very, very early on, and it's going to help you with your co-ops as well at some point.
Yeah, for me, I think one thing I wish I knew sooner throughout college was that just realizing that everyone's journey here is different. I would always be hard on myself, and I'd see people post on LinkedIn about the co-ops they got, or just hearing about the organizations that they applied for that I might have not gotten into. But being a senior and looking back, I feel like I've realized that if an opportunity is truly meant for you, it really won't pass you. So it's important to keep moving forward and just making sure you're continuing to network on LinkedIn, going to those career fairs, and continuing to network with your advisor, and really just seeing all setbacks as an opportunity for growth at the end of the day. I've realized that when you truly focus on your own path, everything will just soon fall into place. You're hearing about all of our study abroad and co-ops and successes, but I think it's important to realize that sometimes failure and setbacks often lead to these study abroad and these co-ops and different things like that. And honestly, most of the time, looking back to plan B or even C ends up being the plan that's meant for you at the end of the day anyway. So just remember to keep moving forward and trusting the process and working hard to reach your goals that you set out for yourself.
Yeah, and so great pieces of advice. For me, it's big on the how you look at school is big for me. It was big for me when I was in high school. It's still big for me now. Going into the classroom, wanting to learn. Going into the classroom, wanting to understand. Even in hard classes like calculus and whatnot, I wasn't going in there and I wasn't just thinking oh, I'm gonna forget this, or I'm never gonna use this again. I went in there and I wanted to understand the next unit. I want to understand what we were doing that day, and I think that's such a big thing for freshmen coming in. Is they're a little intimidated. They don't know what to expect. So I think going in there with the knowledge that I'm a student, I'm supposed to ask questions. I'm learning things that I don't know. You should go in there wanting to understand at the end of the class period what's kind of going on. And even that takes asking questions, which is a whole nother piece of advice in and itself. Even if it takes a little bit of courage, ask questions in class or whatnot, I think going in with the mindset that you want to understand, that you want to learn, that this is gonna pay itself back in time at an internship or whatnot is one of the biggest like motivations for me. It helps me keep a good sight of what I'm learning. I guess it doesn't give me a short-term mindset; it gives me a long-term mindset, which I think is something very valuable in college, especially with projects and homework and whatnot. You can get a very short-minded, like, I just need to get this paper, then I'll do this project, then I do this and that, when really you should be, thinking long-term, this semester, this next year. Where is this project, how can I take notes or whatnot and apply this in an internship that I'm coming up? I know, Sahana, you wanted to add something?
Yeah.
I did. The other thing, interestingly enough, a lot of professors, when you go into their class, they will tell you, come talk to me. They want to build a relationship with you. I know it's not as easy for everybody to go do that with every professor, but there are a lot of professors, especially within Lindner, I've noticed, that really want to, see you succeed. And the better your relationship gets, they become your mentors. I pop into some of my professors' office just because I have time. They'll talk to you. You get to learn from their experiences. They will share pieces of information with you, that they might not have time for during class. And so I think that relationship is also very, very important. It also sort of connects back to my networking initial point.
Absolutely on that, and this is great advice, and it's coming from some really accomplished students. And so Sahana, Lauren, and Jimmy, thank you all for being part of this podcast, and thanks for all of you for listening. Go Bearcats!
Cats by 90.
Bearcats.